juicy, flavorful, oven roasted mushrooms. They're so easy to make and so delicious. Why aren't people making them more? Maybe because a lot of people out there are telling you to make them the wrong way. Well, I'm gonna tell you the right way. We're gonna go over a simple recipe, talk about some of the most common mistakes people make with their oven roasted mushrooms, and then we'll talk about a few ways to take your mushrooms to the next level. Let's do it. All right, basic recipe. We're gonna start off with a pound of Baby Bell button mushrooms. You could also use the white button mushrooms. You could use shiitake mushrooms or king trumpets as well. Any very firm fleshed mushroom will work well. We're going for whole roasted mushrooms here, gushing with goodness. If you want sliced mushrooms, cook them on your stovetop. Okay, first step, we need to wash and trim these mushrooms, cut off any bad parts, and brush off any of that growing medium that is often stuck to these mushrooms. You can also wipe it off with a damp towel or just rinse it off in the sink. If you do get the mushrooms wet, you need to pat them dry and set them on a towel on your countertop, let them air dry. We do need that surface to be dry before we toss these in the oil and fat. I'm using about a quarter cup of olive oil and a teaspoon of Montreal steak seasoning that has the salt and pepper and paprika and red pepper flakes and garlic powder in it. It's a nice spice mix for mushrooms, I think. You can make your own spice mix, and I am gonna add just a little pinch of salt to boost the salt ratio in this mix. Okay, I'm gonna mix those together and then toss all my mushrooms in that oil and spice mixture, and then I'm gonna place them on a baking sheet, making sure to space them evenly so they cook evenly, and you don't have to use foil on your baking sheet, but these mushrooms are gonna release a little liquid, just makes the cleanup a little easier. Now these are ready to be popped in the oven. I'm going 350 degrees, no convection. Bottom rack, it's gonna take about 30 to 40 minutes. It's probably better to err on the side of overdone than underdone. You wanna make sure the middle of those mushrooms are well cooked. And I usually take mine out halfway through, kind of spin the tray around, mix them around just to make sure they all get cooked evenly on all sides. Pull these out after about 35 minutes. They look almost perfect, and yep, the fork goes in cleanly and smoothly. These are done. When you pull them out, you can add a little tablespoon of butter to give them that nice luscious buttery flavor. You can add some herbs. I'm using parsley here, and you can also add a little bit of acid right before serving. I'm using a little squeeze of lemon. Balsamic vinegar is also a good choice. So there you have it. That is a basic, foolproof oven roasted mushroom recipe. First of all, this is not a vegetable, at least since 1969 when the kingdom fungi was established. You don't want to cook this like a vegetable. A potato or carrot is going to benefit from a roasting at 450 degrees or higher, but not a mushroom. A mushroom is going to lose a lot of its liquid, and it's also going to lose a lot of its flavor. All those earthy, nutty, delicious mushroomy flavors are going to be cooked out at that temperature. So it really is better to cook your mushrooms in the oven at 350 degrees and not any higher. Second mistake I see people making is they're dry roasting their mushrooms in the oven prior to coating them in the fat. Dry sauteing in the pan on the stovetop is often beneficial. That's a topic for a different day, but dry roasting in the oven is not your friend. You really want to coat these mushrooms in the fat from the outset. The fat will absorb into some of those air pockets in the mushroom and keep the moisture from cooking out. If you dry roast, you're going to lose a lot of moisture and you're going to end up with more shriveled, more chewy mushrooms, and that's not what you want. Another mistake I see people making is they're brining their mushrooms prior to roasting them in the oven. You think maybe you cook these like meat, brine them like a pork chop. They might benefit in texture and flavor, but that does not actually work or help with mushrooms. If you brine these mushrooms prior to roasting them, they're gonna lose a lot more moisture, they're gonna get a little more mushy, and their flavor will not be improved whatsoever. So I can't recommend ever brining a mushroom. That's why I say don't brine your morels overnight in the spring. They're just gonna get mushy and lose some of their flavors. And the last mistake I see people making is they're tossing their mushrooms in butter and garlic prior to roasting their mushrooms. That garlic's gonna burn. It's gonna have a disgusting bitter flavor, and same with the butter. Milk solids in the butter are gonna burn at over 300 degrees Fahrenheit, and that is gonna negatively affect the flavor of your mushrooms. If you want fresh garlic and butter flavors, you can just add those at the end. If you don't like the fresh garlic flavor, it's a little too strong for you, you can saute it in a pan with some butter and then toss your mushrooms with that when they come out of the oven. So yeah, it's better not to add butter, aromatics, or herbs at the beginning of the process. Better to add them at the end. You'll have much better roasted mushrooms with no bitter off flavors that way. All right, you've got the basic recipe. You know what mistakes to avoid. Now you can kind of take the recipe and run with it as you see fit. Switch out those acids and those spices and the fats to your liking. You could do an Italian style with marinara and like Italian seasonings. You could do Asian style with ginger, soy, and sesame oil. Or you could do Tex-Mex with cilantro and lime. There's a lot of different ways you can go with it. My major suggestion for how to improve your oven roasted mushrooms is to add some delicious animal fat. Some of the best mushrooms I've ever had in my life were oven roasted mushrooms cooked in goose fat from my Christmas goose. Duck fat would also be amazing. One of my other favorites is just beef tallow or drippings from steak or beef. So definitely save those, toss your mushrooms in that. You will not be disappointed. Bacon grease would also work. There's a lot of different ways to go with it. Let me know how you cook your oven roasted mushrooms. Let me know if you like this video. I'm Michael File. I'll see you next time on Mushroom Journeys.